I picked up the phone from the table beside the bed, wondering who would call me at 1:30 in the morning. I saw my wife's number on the screen. Before I could say anything, I heard crying from the other end. "Can you hear me, Daddy?" My anger went away quickly. "Sure, sweetheart, what's wrong?" "I'm all wet and cold, Daddy." "Why?" "My sleeping bag is wet because there's water on the tent floor." "Can't Mommy help you get dry?" "Mommy's not here." "Why not?" "It's late." "Do you know where she is?" "Yes, Daddy." "Where is she?" "She tucked Mikey and me in after dinner and went to Uncle Dave's tent." "Why didn't you go get her?" "She said we should stay in our tent no matter what. She said she would be very angry if she was disturbed." My blood pressure was rising. Dave Murdoch married my wife's sister. He was a sleazy son of a witch who was always making inappropriate remarks to my wife and touching her when he thought I wasn't looking. A week ago, my wife Mandy suggested we head to our favorite campground, about 2 hours out of town in the foothills, a beautiful spot that we visited 3 or 4 times a year. Her sister Sue and husband Dave had agreed to join us. I am an architect, working mainly on high-priced homes, individually designed for select customers. I don't advertise. My reputation is well established from word-of-mouth referrals, and I have enough projects coming up to keep me busy for at least the next 2 years. We live in a 3-level home in a leafy suburb in the outer metropolitan area. My design studio occupies the top floor. We were due to leave home after the kids finished school on Friday. It was a 2-hour drive to the campsite, so we would have plenty of time to set up camp before darkness set in. A terrified builder who had collaborated with me on numerous project homes called the day before to report an issue with the house we were constructing's roof design. His intuition informed him that the design was defective and would fail in severe weather, even though a structural engineer had examined and approved the roof structure. After rechecking my drawings, I had serious doubts too and agreed to meet the builder on site on Friday morning. It was obvious that it would take more than a few hours to rework the plans, so I phoned Mandy, explained the problem, and suggested she take the kids in her car so I could join them sometime on Saturday. She was surprisingly agreeable, so I was able to concentrate on correcting my error, which brings us to the phone call on Friday night, or rather, Saturday morning. I said gently, quelling my anger. "Is your brother there?" "Yes, Daddy." "Is his sleeping bag dry?" "Yes, Daddy." "Is Mummy's sleeping bag there?" "Yes, Daddy." "Is it dry?" "Yes." "Okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you and Mikey to put your clothes in your bags. Get into your mom's sleeping bag and stay dry in the tent. I'm leaving now and will come straight to your tent." "Is it in the usual place at the campground?" "Yes, Daddy." "Okay, pack up, go to sleep, and I'll wake you when I arrive. Good night, sweetheart." "Good night, Daddy." There was hardly any traffic, so I made the 2-hour trip in about an hour and a half. Our bright orange tent was easy to find near our usual spot. It was clear why water got inside. My wife had pitched the tent on sloping ground. The lower side was nestled in a 3-inch deep puddle. Quietly bringing the car to a stop alongside, I opened the tent flap. The beam of my flashlight captured my 2 angels sound asleep, snuggled up against each other on the high side of the tent, their packed bags side by side next to their sleeping bags. They responded a little groggily from being awakened, but I gently placed both of them in the back of the car, still wrapped in their sleeping bags, and threw their carry bags on the front passenger seat. I recognized Dave's tent 50 or so meters away, his car parked a couple of steps in front of the entry. Quietly approaching the tent, I reached down and with a great sweep drew the entry zip completely open, immediately shining my flashlight inside. Captured in the bright beam was my brother-in-law Dave, with the 2 sisters lying one on either side of him. It looked as if they had opened up 2 sleeping bags, using one to lie on and the other as a cover. Dave reacted instantly. "Get the hell out of our tent, you perving arsehole," he yelled. I held the flashlight beam steady. Flinging back the cover, he exposed both women, fully naked, scrambled to his feet and charged at me. Holding the flashlight as steady as possible, I stepped to one side. Instead of headbutting an intruder, he continued his rush out of the tent. My work boot lashed out at his lower legs as he flew by, eliciting a howl of pain and sending him headlong into his own car door. With a groan, he dropped like a stone into the wet earth, and suddenly it was very still. Swinging the flashlight beam back into the tent, I noticed that both women had tried to cover up and were cowering in fear. Finally breaking my silence, I suggested that Dave might need some help out here, and to my wife, "You can keep the tent, darling, since you won't be coming home anytime soon. I'm taking the kids." "No," she screamed. "You can't do this to me. It isn't what it looks like." She was yelling at my back though, as I purposefully strode back to the car, fired it up and started to turn. The kids, awakened by the noise, both sat up and looked out of the car windows as lights were switched on in surrounding tents. "Daddy," called Mikey. "Why is Mommy coming over here without clothes on?" When my car lights shined on her, she stopped and covered her eyes from the bright lights. "I'm not sure, Mikey. Maybe we can ask her later. Now lie down and go back to sleep." Epilogue. My brother-in-law had a tough time. He hit his head on his car door, broke a bone in his leg, and got a concussion. I thought he might try to sue me, but that didn't happen. He didn't try to report what happened either. My legal advisor is a great friend and astute commercial negotiator, but told me immediately that family matters, their polite terminology for divorce, is not his area of expertise. He did, however, refer me to an associate who had the reputation of being a tough operator. After explaining the circumstances of the weekend, I made it clear that I wanted custody of our 2 children, pointing out that any mother who could leave her children unattended in an open campground to further her own carnal aspirations was not a suitable person to have control of children. The lawyer's lips curled in eager anticipation of battle. It is not often that a father is given custody by the family court, and he took it as a personal challenge. The divorce was messy and dragged on for 18 months before she finally conceded we were done. I put up no resistance to her request for visitation rights, and the court agreed that since my work was primarily from home that I would be a suitable custodial parent. A funny thing happened at much the same time. Mandy's sister Sue divorced Dave. Dave did not contest, and they were officially free of each other well before my own divorce was finalized. It seems that Sue was not a willing participant in the threesome with her husband and sister. As for me, I'm not looking for another relationship. I love my 2 kids to bits and spend as much time with them as I can. Mandy initially came to visit several times a week, but then it dwindled to every couple of weeks, and now we are lucky if we see her every couple of months. She complains that the kids are unkind towards her. I date occasionally, once intended to ask my ex-wife to come and sit with them, but the kids vetoed that immediately. So the friendly old lady from down the road stays with them on those rare occasions when I go out. The kids think she's great. At a bar with a friend on evening, a gentle tap on my shoulder turned me around. "Hi, stranger," Sue smiled at me. We spent the next 3 hours bringing each other up to date on the past 3 years. My ex-wife has decided that alcohol is the cure to all of her problems. She dates regularly, but finds it hard to hang on to a man for long. Sue dated rarely after her divorce from Dave. She was happy with her lot in life, but her biggest regret was the failure to have a family. "You are so lucky to have your 2 beautiful children," she said wistfully. "I would love to look after them if ever you need a sitter." I mused. "Would you like to come over tomorrow night for dinner? I'm not a great cook, but I'm really good at BBQ." The kids were excited the next evening. They hadn't seen their aunt since that weekend and were eager for her to come. The steaks were delicious, and the fresh salad I bought was just right. After dinner, I put the kids to bed, though they were disappointed and didn't want to leave their aunt alone. In the quiet of the living room, I opened a new red wine from the Barossa Valley as we talked. I found out that Dave had been attracted to my wife since he joined our family and had been trying to convince Sue to persuade her sister to have a threesome. At the campground, he made advances to my ex and convinced her that I wouldn't find out. He often told Sue that he should have married her instead of her sister. The incident at the campground was the last problem. Sue moved closer to me and put her arm around my shoulder. We kissed cautiously. "I'm not sure this is a good idea," I said unsurely. "Me neither, but I'm not going to wonder about it forever," she replied. My shy sister-in-law turned to me, and before I knew it, we were kissing passionately. "Let's go upstairs," she suggested. We did, and she stayed. Maybe I married the wrong sister too, but I plan to fix that soon. Second story. Wife cheated, what now? My wife of over 15 years cheated with a coworker. She didn't work for a year after being a stay-at-home mom for over 7 years. Cheaters usually don't think about the consequences of their actions, how they'll affect their lives and their kids' lives. This guy would text her about selling the house and other things you hear about in these situations. Her affair cost her a job promotion in her company, and he's a manager there. We still live together because of the cost of living and our kids' school schedules. I work nights, and she works mornings. That's how it's been for all of us. I haven't done anything against him because it would hurt her, and if it hurts her, it affects my kids and me financially. How can I get revenge on this guy? I know where he lives and where he works.